9mm pistol caliber carbines have seen a huge increase in popularity in the last 5 or 6 years, and integrally suppressed variants have become much more prevalent in the past couple years as well. Often referred to as SD models after the original MP5-SD, these PCCs typically use around 30 ports in the barrel just forward of the chamber to bleed off energy and make supersonic ammo travel at subsonic speeds. When paired with an SD suppressor that threads over the entire barrel and the ports, you end up with a very quiet, effective, and fun package. Now, there are several options available in the integrally suppressed 9mm PCC space, with some of the most popular being compared to my current 9mm SD pistol caliber carbine series, including the Broad River Tactical Car 15 SD, the Sig MPX-SD, and the Century Arms AP5 SD converted by HiTec Arms. One common denominator with all of these setups is that they actually can't be fired unsuppressed. So once you've picked your platform, the next step is going to be picking your suppressor. In 2025, we have more options than ever, and with the $0 tax stamp starting next year, I think this trend is only going to increase from here. In this video, I'm going to be comparing some of the most popular 9mm SD suppressor options available on the market today. We have 5 suppressors in 11 different configurations to check out. So to start things off, I'm going to give you a quick rundown of the 5 suppressors that we'll be comparing today, and then we're going to listen to some detailed bystander and POV sound samples for all 11 configurations, and then I'll close things out with my final thoughts, impressions, and recommendations. Now, before we start digging into the details here, I want to give a huge shout out to HiTec Arms for helping make this video a reality. 3 out of the 5 suppressors we'll be reviewing today were provided to the channel by HiTec Arms free of charge, and I really appreciate it. Now, to be perfectly clear here, no money was exchanged, no preferential treatment was requested or discussed. I paid my own tax stamps and transfer fees, and all of the opinions that you'll hear today are my own. HiTec Arms was really excited to hear the detailed comparisons of these suppressors that I'm doing today, as well as the comparisons to the other SD platforms that I'm reviewing, and for that reason they offered to provide the HiTec Arms 12-inch and 9-inch SD suppressors, as well as the B&T PrintX MP5-SD suppressor for the comparison. And the results are actually super interesting, so let's jump in. First, we have the HiTec Arms 12-inch full-length and 9-inch K-style suppressors. The 12-inch model is the one that I ran in my AP5SD video, which I recently released. They're both made out of 6061 T6 aluminum, and the 12-inch model weighs about 16 ounces, while the 9-inch model weighs about 12.5 ounces. There are 6 baffles in the 12-inch model and 3 baffles in the 9-inch model. A unique feature for these two suppressors is that they're both fully user-serviceable, which is not a feature that I've personally seen in any other SD suppressors on the market. They're nice and lightweight, and I'm a big fan of the look and feel of the knurling here as well. Next up, we have the Broad River Tactical SD adapters. These really changed the game when they were released earlier this year by allowing users to turn their traditional 9mm suppressors into 9mm SD suppressors simply by threading on this adapter, which essentially acts as the expansion chamber in an SD suppressor. The adapters themselves are made out of a durable and lightweight grade 5 titanium with 17-4 stainless steel adapter threads, and currently come in 3 different mount styles: Bravo or hub threads, Alpha, and P series. Today we're going to be using the P series and Bravo adapters, converting 2 of the most popular 9mm PCC suppressors on the market into SD suppressors, the Dead Air Wolfman and the Cat Mob. Now, the Dead Air Wolfman is a modular 17-4 stainless steel suppressor which can be run in both full and short configurations. With the Broad River Tactical SD adapter installed, the Wolfman weighs about 22 ounces in its long configuration and 17 ounces in the short configuration. Now, the Cat Mob is one of the latest and most advanced PCC suppressor designs on the market. It's 3D printed out of titanium using Cat's proprietary Diverge low back pressure technology and has quickly become one of the most recommended 9mm pistol caliber carbine cans. With the Broad River Tactical SD adapter installed, the Cat Mob weighs about 18 ounces. Now lastly, we have the brand new B&T PrintX MP5-SD RBS modular titanium suppressor. This suppressor was originally announced almost 2 years ago in a variation that never actually released, and then it was reintroduced in 2025 as the 3D printed titanium variant that we have today. This has easily been the most anticipated SD suppressor for quite some time, and for good reason. It's a fully modular, ultra-lightweight SD suppressor with 6 total configurations. The design includes a low-pressure expansion chamber to minimize gas blowback and also ships with 2 end caps. One end cap is sealed for maximum suppression, and the other one is vented for minimal back pressure. This suppressor can also be run in 3 different length configurations: the full 13.7 inches, compact 10.8 inches, or subcompact 7.9 inches. And these configurations are all shockingly light, from about 18 ounces in the full-length configuration and 13 ounces in the mid-length configuration to a mere 8 ounces in the short configuration. Now, from the factory, these come in kind of a weird gray color that I'm really not a fan of, but some companies like HiTec Arms will offer Duracoat services to paint it black, which is definitely my preference personally. So that's what we got going on today, guys. I am super excited to see how these 5 suppressors perform across all 11 configurations. Now, I normally use hearing protection even with suppressed 9mm PCCs because my hearing is very important to me, but for the purposes of this video, I felt like it was important to keep my ear protection off so that I could report more accurately on how each configuration sounds from the shooter's perspective. I would highly recommend listening to these samples in a nice set of headphones so that you can hear as many of the nuances as I was able to hear on the range. So with all that said, let's hit the range and see how these things sound. Whoa. Wow. Whoa. Wow. Alright guys, that was a ton of fun, and the results were super interesting. I want to start off by saying that I think all 5 of the suppressors I tested today are excellent choices for different use cases, and at the end of the video, I'm going to give my recommendations for which suppressors I would choose in different scenarios. The other key point that I need to note here is that despite my sensitive ears, none of the configurations we tested today rang my ears at all, which was really awesome and super impressive. At the end of the day, the differences in sound between all 5 of these suppressors in all practicality is really pretty minor, but there are definitely some differences worth talking about, so let's get into it. So starting off with the HiTec Arms suppressors, these sounded great. The 12-inch model is the one that I've run the most on my AP5SD, so I actually ended up going back to it several times throughout the day, essentially using it as the control in my comparison. Now the 9 and 12-inch models both have a very similar tone. I would say they have the highest pitch out of all the suppressors we tested today, though it's still very comfortable. The 12-inch is definitely quieter than the 9-inch, with the 9-inch actually being one of the louder options that we tested today, with noticeably more environmental reverberation, but again, they were all perfectly hearing safe for me. And as I've said before, I love the aesthetic of these. The knurling looks and feels great, they're really lightweight, and that user serviceability will be a huge bonus for people that want to be able to clean their suppressors. These are also the most competitively priced options that we're looking at today, which is worth noting as well. Now getting into the Dead Air Wolfman with a Broad River Tactical P-Series adapter, this has been my favorite 9mm PCC suppressor for a long time, and it performs really well as an SD suppressor. It's a little on the heavier side, especially in the long configuration, which is the heaviest that we have here today. But in that long configuration, I think the volume was very similar to the 12-inch HiTec Arms suppressor, but the pitch or tone was slightly lower. Now, lower pitches can sometimes be perceived to the human ear as being quieter, but to me they were very similar here. Now, the short configuration was actually pretty nice. I've always been really impressed at how well the Wolfman performs in its short configuration. I would say it's slightly quieter than the 9-inch HiTec Arms suppressor, and it maintains the lower pitch of the full-length configuration. Now price-wise, the Wolfman with the Broad River Tactical Adapter is right around the middle of the pack, and the modularity of swapping between long and short configurations is definitely a bonus here. And then we have the Cat Mob, the darling of Reddit communities everywhere, with the Broad River Tactical Bravo Hub Adapter. This thing is insane, guys. I'm always impressed every time that I hear it. It definitely had the lowest pitch or tone of the day, and it was neck and neck for being the quietest of the day as well. It's lightweight, looks great, and sounds amazing. But it doesn't have any modularity, and it's the second most expensive option of the day. So to get to this level of performance, you definitely have to pay for it. Lastly, we have the B&T PrintX Modular Titanium Suppressor. Now, believe it or not, this was actually the biggest surprise of the day for me. I've owned a couple of other B&T suppressors, including my TP9 suppressor and my B&T GHM9 SD suppressor, and honestly, they're some of my least favorite 9mm suppressors that I have. They work fine, I'm just really not a fan of how they sound. I find the tone of both of them to be fairly unpleasant, so I really went into this test with tempered expectations of the B&T PrintX can. But honestly, this thing sounds fantastic. While conducting the tests, I had to go back and forth several times between the Cat Mob and the B&T suppressor in its full-length configuration with a sealed end cap to figure out which one of them was quieter. Now, my conclusion on the range was that the Cat Mob has a slightly lower pitch and is slightly quieter from the shooter's perspective. After loading up and reviewing the footage in the studio, I would actually say I think the full-length B&T configuration with the sealed end cap was the quietest of the day, though still at an ever so slightly higher but still very pleasant pitch when compared to the Cat Mob. Now in all configurations, I consistently found that swapping to the vented end cap from the sealed end cap seemed to raise the pitch of the sound behind the gun with a little extra environmental reverberation experienced as a result of the extra gases going downrange. The vented end cap also introduced a little bit of first round pop as well, meaning the first round fired was noticeably louder than subsequent rounds. I was actually surprised at how much of a difference there was between the different end caps here. It was really interesting. I found the mid-length configuration to be very similar to the full-size 12-inch HiTec Arms suppressor in terms of volume, but with a slightly lower tone. I would say the mid-length configuration offers a great balance of size, weight, and performance. Now the short configuration, I really did not enjoy. Both the vented and sealed end caps in the short configuration had an extremely loud and surprising first round pop.
Whoa. Wow.
Now, it didn't ring my ears, but I wouldn't say that it was comfortable either. Subsequent shots after the initial pop were actually surprisingly quiet for the size. But I definitely would not recommend using the B&T suppressor in its shortest configuration without ear protection, specifically due to that first round pop. Now, if you are using ear protection, it actually is insanely short, light, and handy. By far the lightest and shortest setup that we tested today, and so it could be the perfect setup for the right platform. Now, all of this versatility and performance does come at a cost, however, as the B&T suppressor is far and away the most expensive suppressor in the test today, nearly doubling the cost of the HiTec Arms suppressors. Now, one final difference to note here is that the B&T suppressor is the only suppressor reviewed today that utilizes the original German design for threading into the barrel. So instead of a flat threaded section that indexes against the barrel shoulder behind the threads, this B&T suppressor actually indexes at the front of the threads via a face mount style ledge at the inside of the suppressor connection. This results in around a 1/16 to a 1/8 of an inch gap between the bottom of the suppressor and the barrel shoulder. Now, although this does bother my OCD a little, I'm not about to suggest that I know better than the German engineers that designed the original MP5SD suppressors, so I'm sure the setup is good to go, and it actually might help minimize carbon locking of the threads, since the threads are somewhat separated from the gases in the expansion chamber. But even with that, I still kind of prefer the flat, shoulder-mounted design personally. It just feels better to me, even if it is a relatively minor thing at the end of the day. Alright, so to wrap things up, what are my recommendations? When would I use or recommend each suppressor? I would say if you're planning on wearing ear protection anyway, they're all going to sound great and will probably be pretty hard to distinguish from one another, outside of a side-by-side comparison. So I think a lot of your choice may end up coming down to things like weight and length and other features like low back pressure, serviceability, or modularity if you're using hearing protection. Now, starting with the HiTec Arms 12-inch suppressor, although it does have a higher pitch, it still sounds great and is actually my favorite in terms of pure vibes on my AP5SD. I think it has the most classic look while also being impressively light and serviceable, with great knurling and the best price to performance ratio of the suppressors that we discussed today. Especially if you want a dedicated SD suppressor that will live on your SD firearm of choice, I think this is an excellent option. Now, the HiTec Arms 9-inch suppressor is not the quietest, but it does still sound good and is an excellent length and very lightweight. It does have a little bit of first round pop, but nothing compared to the B&T in its short configuration. For something like a Car 15 SD where you might want a shorter and lighter setup, I would definitely take this over the B&T in short configuration. So if compact, lightweight, serviceable, and inexpensive is what you want, this is a very strong choice. Now, the Dead Air Wolfman, or any other traditional 9mm can with a Broad River Tactical SD adapter for that matter, is a versatile and inexpensive way to dip your toes into integrally suppressed SD functionality if you already have a regular 9mm suppressor. With something like the Wolfman, you can get great sound and modularity with a little bit of extra weight, and you would have the potential benefit of being able to use your suppressor investment on more platforms, including other PCCs and even handguns, depending on which one you choose. So if versatility is one of your primary goals, or you're not sure if you're going to like the SD platform in general and you already have a 9mm suppressor, this is a great path to pursue. Now, as for the Cat Mob and the Broad River Tactical Hub Adapter, this is a great option if you want the deepest tone and quite possibly the quietest option available from behind the gun, while also being able to flex into a regular direct thread or tri-lug PCC suppressor outside of its SD functionality. It's very light and low back pressure, but a little bit long and not modular. Now, if you're planning on using FRTs or other very safe options in your PCC, the Cat Mob might not be the best choice because the lower back pressure can actually cause cycling issues in certain platforms. But overall, this is a fantastic option, though it is also the second most expensive. And finally, we have the B&T. If you're looking for a dedicated SD suppressor, this is hands down the most versatile option that we discussed today, and the full-length configuration may very well be the quietest overall. If you want something that's completely modular and able to switch between sealed and low back pressure, that's also ultra lightweight with a very pleasing tone, this is not only a fantastic choice, it's really the only choice for something that does all of that. It sounds excellent in its full configuration, great in its mid-length configuration, but just okay in short configuration. I'd maybe say it sounds decent after you get past that first round pop. Now, if you're wearing ear protection, the short configuration is definitely as short and light as you could possibly get, and it still would sound very good, all things considered. The long configuration definitely sounds the best, and I can see it becoming very popular, but for me personally, I actually think it's kind of comically long and a little goofy looking in my opinion. I think the mid-length configuration is really the Goldilocks length here. It looks and sounds very good and is ultra light and handy. As for the vented and sealed end caps, I would recommend choosing the end cap based on your platform. If you don't need low back pressure, then definitely go with a sealed end cap for maximum suppression and the best tone. And the vented end cap is a great option for a platform that benefits from lower back pressure, so you can actually use the suppressor as somewhat of a tuning tool as well, which is super cool. Alright, so after all that, what am I going to run on my personal integrally suppressed PCCs moving forward? Which of these suppressors will live permanently on which gun? Now for my AP5SD, no question, it's the HiTec Arms 12-inch suppressor. It's just got all the vibes on what might be the vibiest gun in my collection. It sounds great, especially with ear protection, and has run for about 2,000 rounds for me without a single issue. Now for my Broad River Tactical Car 15 SD, I'm running the Cat Mob with the Broad River Tactical SD Adapter. The low back pressure and excellent sound profile mixed with the CMMG radial delayed action is a sublime combination. It sounds incredible and has extremely low felt recoil. Then lastly, for my MPX-SD, I'm going to be running the B&T suppressor in its mid-length configuration with the vented end cap. Although the vented end cap will make it a little bit louder, the MPX can be a little bit prone to trigger slap when using really safe options, so less back pressure helps to minimize that and it still sounds great. So that's my review of some of the most popular 9mm SD suppressors on the market, guys. I hope that watching this video and hearing my experiences can help some of you make a good decision and take a dive into the exciting world of integrally suppressed pistol caliber carbines. Let me know which combination you would personally love to run down in the comments below. And if you're interested in getting an integrally suppressed 9mm pistol caliber carbine, but you don't know where to start, make sure you subscribe to my channel because I'm currently in the middle of a 9mm integrally suppressed pistol caliber carbine series that's going to culminate in a detailed comparison of 4 of the most popular 9mm integrally suppressed PCCs on the market. So make sure you're subscribed and turn on your notifications so you don't miss any of these videos when they drop. So that's going to be all for today, guys. I've got a ton of reviews on the way, including more PCCs, ARs, AKs, handguns, and shotguns. So remember to like and subscribe, ring the bell, stay tuned, and thanks for stopping by.